So you want to start playing Dungeons and Dragons. You got together with a few friends, you picked a date, and it turns out, whether by choice or just the fact that no one else wants to do it, you are going to be the DM. So today I want to talk about just a few tips and tricks that I picked up along the way, and some of the things that I did to prepare for my first game that I think would help you. The full set of D&D books, Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monster Manual, the 3 basic books, a set of those at the moment will set you back about £100 on Amazon. That is a bit of an investment, but you don't need to spend that much money straight away. What you should be getting, Starter Kit, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. This will set you back about £15 on Amazon at the moment. It contains everything that you need, actually, for like weeks worth of game. The adventure that it contains is called The Lost Mines of Phandelver. It's a fun, varied adventure. There's interesting plot developments. There's a lot of cool opportunities for a player character to do interesting, unexpected things. It also comes with a set of dice. Now, you don't have to use the pre-made characters. You can create your own. Players can create their own. This does add a layer of complexity to the initial session, and you have to bear in mind that the adventure here is designed specifically for these pre-written characters. So that will add an extra layer of complexity to your first session if you are going to be making your own. There are other options for you, of course. You can find the basic rules for Dungeons & Dragons online for free on the internet, along with a whole load of pre-made characters from level 1 right up the way to level 20. But again, without the rulebooks, you're going to struggle to get something going. For me, the starter kit was the perfect introduction to Dungeons & Dragons and DMing, so that's what I'm going to be assuming that you're using for the rest of this video. So the most important thing, in my opinion, is to know what a Dungeons & Dragons game is supposed to be like. Now, every game is going to be different, of course, but having a real-life example to base your game on is going to make it that much easier when it comes time for you to run that game. So for example, you'll be a lot less likely to panic in combat if you know what a combat encounter is supposed to sound like, how long it can take. A combat encounter in this game can take an hour or more, depending on the complexity, the number of characters, whether it's a big climactic battle, or it could be over in 3 minutes. Now in my case, I was lucky. I'd had some experience as a player already, not actually in 5th edition, but the way the game flows is still fairly similar across multiple editions of D&D. If you haven't had that, that's okay, because the internet exists. Now, probably, if you found this video, you may already be listening to Critical Role, or another live-streamed or podcast game of Dungeons & Dragons. Fantastic. Listen to those. That gives you such a good idea of what it is actually like to be at a D&D table. It's the closest you can get without having the game running in front of you. If you're looking for examples based specifically on the starter kit, searching YouTube will come up with quite a few examples of streamers playing The Lost Mines of Phandelver, specifically the very beginning of the adventure. I watched a few of those before I DM'd my first game, and I found that really helpful, so I'll throw a few links in the description. You can check those out afterwards if you want to. I found that really helpful just to get a feel for how other people were running the opening encounters, because I wasn't quite sure how to do that. This is important. Do not compare yourself to Matthew Mercer. I'm sure that a lot of you have come here from watching or listening to Critical Role, and as I said, it is fantastic. The characters are wonderful, the character interaction is amazing, the story is emotional, the combat is epic. But you have to remember, every single cast member, the DM included, is a professional voice actor, and they have been doing that for years. They have been playing D&D for years. Matt will effortlessly slip from describing lush scenery and visceral combat to doing pitch-perfect accents of a variety of multiple characters and delivering incredibly emotional, seemingly well-written, yet entirely improvised dialogue. You will not be able to DM like Matthew Mercer. I cannot DM like Matthew Mercer. The only person that can DM like Matthew Mercer is Matthew Mercer. And that's fine. You shouldn't want that. Critical Role is a great show, and it's a great game of D&D, but it is just one game of D&D. There are so many ways to play this game, and I almost feel like you're restricting yourself if you're just trying to be Critical Role, if you're trying to just copy the way they do things. You're not going to be playing your own game, and you're not going to have as much fun. Now, by all means, take inspiration. If you think that a particular character that Critical Role or any other show has come up with is really cool, or a particular encounter, or a new weapon, a type of monster, borrow it. This is your game, this is your world, you can do whatever you like. Borrow, use, make your own versions of things. Just make sure that you are making your version of it, because it'll make your game so much better if you are. You need to do preparation, but don't over-prepare. The starter adventure, it is written in the friendliest language imaginable, but it can still be quite intimidating if you try and read the whole thing at once. You don't need to do that, especially for your first session. All you should be focusing on is the first chapter. Now that should take around 4 to 5 hours, and that is a perfect length for the first session. If enough people want it, I may do a video specifically on preparing for the first session of this adventure, but let me know if you want that. Don't think you have to try and memorize anything. You will have the book in front of you. This is not an exam when you're playing. Just make sure you've got a decent understanding of what is supposed to happen at each point, and try and imagine how your players might react to the events that are going on. What you think they might do. Bear in mind, they are going to throw things up that you cannot possibly anticipate, and believe me, that's the most fun part of the game when they do that. The rulebook is similar in that it's written as nicely, as friendly as possible. It is still quite dense, and again, it can seem like a lot to read all at once. Treat this like a reference book. You don't have to know offhand everything that's in this book. Just know where you need to turn in the book to find what you're looking for. It may be helpful to grab a set of post-it notes, just mark up the pages for things used for things like combat, travel rules, rest, any spells that your players use very often, that sort of thing. For things like the spells, monster stats, etc. at the back of the adventure book, you might want to photocopy those. They're all going to be there, you can turn to the page, but it might be a little easier if you photocopy them. You could even cut out the ones that you're using for that adventure for that day, if you really want to do that. Alternatively, if you've got a phone, a tablet, a laptop in front of you, anything that's in the basic rules of D&D, whether it's in the starter adventure or the main rulebooks, you can find on Google within a few seconds of searching. So if you ever get stuck, find it that way. Now, one thing I would definitely recommend is that you spend a little bit of time setting up a soundtrack. It really does make the difference and add so much more to the mood if you can just have a little bit of background music. At a bare minimum, I would suggest you have 2 playlists. One for exploration, and one for combat. Think about, if you've played Skyrim or Oblivion, how the music works in those games. There's nice sort of peaceful music when you're walking around, and then when combat begins, it gets a bit heavier, a bit grittier. And just having that transition, it makes the game flow a lot better. Just really trust me on this. Spotify is what I use for when we're playing, and that has hundreds, thousands of hours of TV soundtrack, film soundtrack, game soundtracks. You can just pick your favorites from wherever. We use a lot of Elder Scrolls music, I use a lot of music from The Witcher. And again, the music that you choose can impact the tone of your game, but as long as you've got something that you're comfortable with, you think sounds cool, it'll fit with your game. If you're planning to stream your game, meanwhile, or put it up on YouTube, bear in mind that you may not necessarily have the rights to broadcast that music. In fact, you almost definitely don't. So in that case, you can find a lot of royalty-free music online, and plenty of that is going to be really useful for you as well. And again, I'll put a few links down in the description so you can check those out. Lastly, have fun. Dungeons & Dragons is a game. It's meant to be fun. This isn't a job for you and fun for the players. Everybody at the table is going to have a great time, including you. So make it fun. Get some snacks, get some drinks. Alcohol or not is up to you. Get the table set up, relax. I mean, light a few candles, make an atmosphere, get a mood going. Why not? When the game actually starts, just take it slow. Don't worry if you get anything wrong. Your players, if they're new, they're not going to notice, and they're probably going to make plenty of mistakes on their own. If you do make a mistake, that's okay. I mean, you don't even need to mention it. If it's just something as simple as not doing that next time, just make a note of it and move on. The game will flow a lot quicker that way. D&D is a fantastic hobby, and I'm really glad that you're going to be joining us on this adventure. DMing is an entirely different experience on top of that. So I hope that you found some of the tips in this video useful. If there's anything you want me to clarify, if you've got any extra advice you'd like to give from an experienced DM, please leave a comment. I would love to know what you have to say. If this was useful to you, a like would mean a lot to me. And if you'd like to see some more D&D videos coming up, please subscribe. All I have to say then is, I really hope your game goes well. Until next time, I'll see you later.